Hello guys, welcome to Talking News Chasing a Murder. Please subscribe and like right now so that you can support this channel. Also hit that notification bell if you'd like notifications. So we're going over the Lori Vallow case, and it's then and now. This is part 2. If you haven't checked out part 1, go ahead and do that now before you get started. But we will kind of glimpse over a few things we covered in part 1. One of those things are the letters that Alex wrote in the jailhouse. This letter he writes is basically to Lori to get a picture of her ex-husband to him, along with a license plate and other information. Alex is telling whoever he's talking to that the people that he knows inside this jail would be interested in meeting him, basically. We're also still at the point to where Joseph Ryan, Lori's third husband, they're still battling over the custody of Tylee Ryan. So June 5th, 2012. Joseph is filing more petitions against Lori to modify the child custody and child support arrangements for their daughter Tylee. These records are coming out of Maricopa County, Arizona. And these battles, guys, go on until about 2014. Moving forward to April 11th, 2013, JJ is taking his first steps. He's 13 months old. Around this same time, Charles Vallow and Lori begin the legal process to adopt JJ. And when they do adopt JJ, they realize that they're taking on a special needs child. So he has ADHD, autism, which is going to require a lot of care. Also in 2014, this is pretty important and significant to me, Chad actually runs into a woman browsing on the internet by the name of Julie Rowe. Julie says that Chad Daybell reached out to her because they had similar experiences. She had a near-death experience back in 2004. According to Julie Rowe, during that time, she became very close friends with the Daybells. And there was a 3-year period of time where Julie would visit Chad and Tammy in their Rexburg home at least once a month. So while Julie was there, she was sharing her visions with the family. She was giving them, these futuristic readings. And she also ended up publishing her books through Chad's publishing company. So Chad Daybell helps Julie publish her books and get them out there. On April 15th of 2014, Tylee answers questions on Ask FM. And on July 2014, Charles and Lori finalized the adoption of Charles' nephew, Joshua Jackson JJ Vallow. About a month later, June 1st, 2014, Joseph Ryan wins the custody petition against Lori involving the adjustment of child support and parenting time with Tylee. Now, on July of 25th of 2014, they say this was the actual finalized and adoption of JJ. And you can find this in the post-register. Sorry, guys. So this information is coming out of the 14th Judicial District Court Parish of, it's in Louisiana. A few records say that on 10 of 2014, Chad resigns again from his job. August 2014, Chad Daybell rents a large cabin in Island Park, Idaho for the extended family vacation trip. And it's during this trip that Chad says he hears a voice say, quote, "You'll live here soon," end quote. They've reached the end of 2014, and according to a few different noted timelines, they say that Charles Vallow, Lori Vallow moved to Hawaii. They decide to start. So the family, that's Tylee, JJ, Lori, and Charles, they decide to start up this juice business. So according to the records, the juice business is called Juice Island, and you can find it on Facebook. It's still there. But it's later on that the business is actually reportedly a failure. And they would eventually, move back to Arizona, which we'll get to later. Eventually, guys, they end up moving back to Arizona, which I'll mention again around 2016 and 2017. But so it's around 2015, a friend of Lori's says that she's starting to get fascinated by Chad Daybell's books. So, in other words, she kind of said in another article that she was basically obsessed with Chad's books, especially the fictional series called Standing in Holy Places. She was so obsessed with those books that she bought the whole series for herself and then bought her friend a few. So really, by timeline standards, this is where Lori's starting to get infatuated by a new thought process, a new idea, and obsessed with Chad Daybell. Now, I was able to pick up a more specific date. I want to share that for the juice company. So I have January 12th, 2015. They say that the Vallows registered this Juice Island business, and it's in Princeville, Hawaii. So we know that Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow are in contact now. You know, they're talking back and forth in some way. February 2015, Chad has a vision of walking a path and hearing a voice say, "Moving to Rexburg will be a tremendous blessing to your children and your grandchildren." So I guess he believes he's going to live in a better place in the future. So a few weeks after that, Chad was eating dinner with his entire family. He kind of put out to Tammy, "When we move to Rexburg." Tammy Daybell was shocked by that. She had never heard him talk about that before. So she wasn't thrilled about this, but Tammy ended up later on agreeing to move to Rexburg. So it's around June of 2015, Chad and Tammy Daybell buy a house and move to Rexburg, Idaho. Tammy worked as an assistant librarian at Madison Middle School. She later became a librarian at Central Elementary School in Sugar City, Idaho. And this is according to Chad's blog. So on some records, they say that the Daybells purchased, which is their current home right now, a house in Salem. At some point, Chad hears a voice tell him once again to move to Rexburg. So they make the move from Springville, Utah, guys, to Salem, which is in Idaho. Now, what kind of woman was Tammy? Well, according to what I found out so far, Tammy Daybell was treasured and loved by the staff and students. And at that time, her husband absolutely loved and adored her. She was always mentioned in his books as the rock, the person that helped him get through all this. She was one that believed in him. And according to a few articles, Tammy Daybell was loved and adored by her community. Okay, so let's move on to June 25th of 2015. Tylee Ryan tweets a photo with a friend captioned, "4 more days until Hawaii with this chick." July 11th of 2015, Tylee tweets a photo with a friend doing Charlie Angel poses. It's captioned, "Partners in Crime." It's July 27th of 2015. Tylee tweets a photo with a friend caption, "I'm going to miss this girl." Now remember, I told you guys I have several dates. So on August 4th, 2015, it says that Lori and Charles registered their business entity called Juice Island. 2016, it says that Chad works as a sales executive at Falls Printing. Now late 2016 to early 2017, this is a date that is a little bit sketchy, and they say that the Vallows moved from Hawaii back to Arizona, the whole entire family. Once the Vallows returned back to the mainland from Hawaii, it is said it's about this time that Charles spends thousands of dollars getting a properly trained service dog for JJ, who has autism. The dog's name is Bailey, and Bailey is a Labradoodle. According to Charles' ex-wife, he said that her son loves spending time with the Labradoodle and JJ. A little bit of an environment change, guys. March 16th, 2017, Tylee creates a project on Prezi about linear functions. On March 29th, 2017, Tylee creates a Roblox, and I don't know if I said that right, it's ROBLOX account under the username typically Tylee. So we're moving into May 19th in 2017, and Chad has written his autobiography, and it's titled Living on the Edge of Heaven. In this autobiography, he mentions that he has several near-death experiences. He also says that he has one foot in a spirit world and one in our world. And in almost every book that he has written and put out there, he gives a lot of credit to his wife, Tammy Daybell. Oftentimes, he inscribes to Tammy, to my one and only. A lot of times, he refers to himself as, he can see himself as an older man who is going to be there to build the New Jerusalem, which they say will be in Missouri. He also quotes that I appear to be in better shape in the future than I am now, probably due to the lack of fast food in Zion. So Chad has visions that he's one of the leaders that's going to help build this New Jerusalem in Missouri. So this is where we're starting to see a sudden change in who Chad thinks he is. He's wanting to change the way he eats. And you have to wonder, does Lori have something to do with that? Now remember, he always mentions that he's not very creative. You'll start noticing in his photos as he gets older and we move forward, he loses a lot of weight. So here we go, a very significant date. I believe it's June 2017, and this is a, approximate. Family members say that Lori and Chad meet for the first time. Okay, so these dates might be a little sketchy, but we're going to do the best we can. In the summer of 2017, it says that Chad meets the author and podcaster Melanie Gibb, which you'll hear her name several times in this. And he speaks with her about a camp out in northern Utah. Melanie Gibb invited Chad to speak in her hometown of Mesa, Arizona. So this meeting is definitely important. This is a part of the timeline you do want to keep up with. It's September 24th, 2017, and it's Tylee's birthday. She's turning 15. Lori posts a happy birthday message to her on Instagram that mentions Perry High School in Gilbert, Arizona. Lori is under Lolo4Kwai on Instagram, and she says, my beautiful daughter turned 15 today. Happy birthday, Tai Tai. I love you so much. Okay, guys, these dates might vary. They're going to be approximate because these podcast dates are a little difficult to put together. December 27th or 2018, the Kids Must Suffer podcast comes out. But then again, it says December 5th of 2017 that Lori and Chad made their first appearance together on a podcast, and that comes from Daily Mail. Now, according to a few investigators, an FBI agent and a few others, and a guy called Mao, sorry guys, Lori and Chad actually met at the temple. They had an instant connection, and according to him, or Chad, he knew that Lori was a gatherer, and he knew he needed to connect Lori and Melanie Gibb together. And on a few other emails that they were able to pull up, in the middle of a podcast from December of 2018, Lori mentions how suffering leads to salvation. She continues, and even though she doesn't want her kids to suffer, she understands that they have to in order to see the light. And the question is, what is the light? In one of these videos, we'll go in more detail about that. So December 5th, 2018, this podcast that they put out there is done under a media company, or under the banner rather, it's called Preparing the People. These people put out series of podcasts, and basically it's like doomsday preparation. And the names that you hear, like Melanie Gibb, they're all connected to this group of people. So here's a little bit of information off of their website of who they are. We are a small multimedia company that has provided services for a variety of clients for about 7 years. Preparing the People was a series of lecture events focusing on self-reliance and personal preparation. These provided several LDS speakers, authors, and educational forum. Associated with these events were podcasts, videos, and websites used to advertise and distribute some of their content. And let me tell you guys that they have invited Chad Daybell more than a couple of times, actually. Chad Daybell is responsible for bringing Lori Vallow into this network of people. We will talk more about that as we move on, but Chad and Lori are both on the same episode of Preparing the People podcast, which is called or titled Time to Warrior Up. Now, I do want to talk about again that Charles Vallow, sometime in December between 2017 to early 2018, he's talking to the dog trainer for Bailey and for his son JJ. Children with autism, they kind of wander off according to, a lot of parents that have autistic children. Once Charles got Bailey and trained him specifically for JJ, they seen a change in JJ. He was more comfortable. At one point, they said they were worried about JJ wandering off. They would lock the doors at night. One of their biggest fears is that JJ would wander off into a neighborhood. The trainer of the dog said they got to a point in the lesson that the Vallows said that this is one of the first nights that JJ stayed in his bed and slept through the night because he had Bailey in the bed there with him. Ultimately, this dog made a huge difference in JJ's life, according to his parents and the dog trainer. So, you can see how service dogs can pay a service to children who have some sort of disability. So, January of 2018, Colby, which is Lori's older son, said he got married in the backyard of Lori and Charles Vallow's home in Santan Valley, Arizona. So these dates kind of rotate back and forth a little bit too. He says that Tylee wasn't in the wedding photos because Tylee Ryan actually arrived to his wedding late. Colby explains to an interviewer later on in the next year about this day, and he tells them that at the time he was living in the household with his mother and stepfather. Everything was normal. He didn't see anything wrong, and they were just a normal couple. They had a few arguments like any other couple. To Colby, it seemed like a good relationship. Colby also describes his mother as a very good mom. According to Colby, he had never at that time ever heard the name Chad Daybell or anything to do with his religious group, Preparing the People, any of that stuff. After the wedding, he said that he and Tylee began mentoring each other, like a mentoring relationship through texting each other. According to Colby, he said he really didn't talk a lot to Tylee on phone. Most of the time, if he did, it was through FaceTime and texting. In late March of 2018, we are going back to Joseph Anthony Ryan Jr. That is Lori Vallow's third ex-husband. What we're hearing is he has an apartment in Maricopa County, and that's in Arizona. And one report that I found says that a neighbor asked for a welfare check on Joseph. And this is because he hadn't seen Joseph in approximately 1 week. Now remember, guys, that letter from Alex Cox in jail, this is what concerns me. Police call the landlord that owns his apartment and get the key. When they enter his apartment, they found him deceased in his bed. The coroner does a report, and on there it says that they took samples of the liver, thigh muscles, and held them for toxicology. Anyways, they said his death didn't appear to be suspicious. It was unclear if the toxicology was ever run or not. Now, guys, they rule his death. Sorry, I dropped my mic. I hope you can't hear me moving it. A heart attack. So, natural causes. But the thing is, Lori applies for and receives Social Security survivor benefits for Tylee. And she told this to her sister-in-law. Now, the problem is Joseph Ryan, he was cremated. Now, all the stuff that is happening right now, they're not able to exhume him and, double check to see if that was natural causes. but his death is a little suspicious. So early April 2018, Lori is notified about the death of her ex-husband, Joseph Ryan, but she doesn't tell his family about it. In May of 2018, about 5 weeks after he was found, his sister Andy finds out about her brother's death through her other brother. See, the way that they found out is no one had claimed Joseph Ryan's remains, so the officials had to run a background check to find out who his family was and then contact one of those family members. Joseph Ryan's sister Annie said, "That took me back. I thought you knew and you didn't tell me." And she's referring to Lori. May of 2018, Lori Vallow contacts Annie, which is Joseph Ryan's sister, and asks her to visit Arizona to support Tylee. Even though Annie says that she was upset with the fact that Lori didn't contact her, she said, "I decided to put my personal feelings aside about not being told about Joe's death, and I flew out there, hoping to connect with my niece Tylee." Annie said when she arrived in Arizona, she hung out at Lori's house with her niece and her nephew, and really what she found out while she was there was kind of disturbing, a lot disturbing for her, that the fact that Lori was kind of discouraging Tylee, Joseph's daughter, from mourning her father's death. Annie said, "When I got there, it was as if nothing had happened. People were hardly talking about Joe, and when Lori did, the tenor was she would actually say the world is a better place without Joe Ryan." Another thing that she noticed when she was staying with Lori is there was a tension between Lori and her daughter Tylee. So I guess you can imagine you have Lori there telling her, the world's a better place without Joe Ryan. That comment in itself tells you, along with the Alex Cox letters that he wrote from the jail, that's something suspicious. Annie decided she needed to get out of there, and she did, and she was texting back and forth with Tylee. A few of those texts said, "It was absolutely exhausting. I dealt with so many lies, even the little things." She says, "I think Lori's unhinged and untethered from the truth, and Lolo was crazy. I saw the dark side of her when I was there, and that makes me question some of her claims, and I regret going down there." Annie says, "I think she is a psychopath." To her, this was all a game. She had no empathy for the suffering anyone else was experiencing, including Tylee. So it's after May 2018, Annie says that she was so shaken, she decided to cut ties with Lori. She said, "I just felt exhausted from the constant campaigning, meaning against Joseph Ryan and Lolo's out-of-control ego." She said, "But I feel trapped. I connected with Tylee, but I don't want anything to do with Lolo ever again." Annie says that that was the last visit and the last time that she ever saw Tylee. I just want to mention this just to make sure that we do have this on here, is they're saying that June of 2018, Charles is at the mainland. June of 2018, Chad Daybell finishes writing Times of Turmoil. This is the book he'll end up speaking about in Arizona, which is around July, I think. I know he reaches out to Melanie Gibb about it. So moving on to June 3rd of 2018, Tylee creates a second Roblox. I hope I'm saying that right. June 7th of 2018, Tylee joins Wattpad. So that's WATTPAD. Her location is showing her where she's in Chandler, Arizona. And the profile name that she's using is at Tylee Ryan. So that's all I've got on that right now. June 27th of 2018, Chad announces a book signing on his blog for his book, Reclaiming Liberty. And this is the completion of the series of books, which is, what is it here? I lost my spot, sorry. Times of Turmoil. So on July 13th of 2018, Chad speaks at an event in Mesa, Arizona with another author, and he has a book signing afterwards. So this is arranged by his friend Melanie Gibb, and this is you can get this off of Web Sleuths. There we go. July 25th, 2018, and this is one of Tylee's very last activities that show on her YouTube channel. Tylee adds the song called Watch by Billie Eilish. September 24, 2018. I hope I didn't get this mixed up, guys. So Tylee's 16th birthday. On September 2018, Chad starts speaking on a podcast called Glimpses Through the Veil. We got this off of event flyers. And then I want to tell you, what does he mean by glimpses through the veil? So the veil, his veil is torn. So he believes that there's a veil, and that veil separates the spirit world from human world. I'm still learning about this, but to give you an idea, it's hard to have time. There's so much in this to research it all. But he believes that he walks in both worlds. So remember that. September 15th of 2018, Chad speaks at a prepper event in Brigham City, Utah. That's also posted on event flyers. So October 26th through October 27th of 2018, Chad speaks at a prepper event in St. George, Utah. November 16th through 17th of 2018, Chad speaks at a prepper event in Mesa, Arizona. Okay, so this is a little important just for knowing a little bit of information on the side. November 2018, Brenda Dye is elected to her position in the Fremont County Coroner. Late of 2018, I don't have the exact date, Lori and Chad meet at a prepper event in Arizona. And Chad did he spoke there. So this is where we're going to end this second part of this series, where we're doing the Lori Vallow story on Then and Now. But at least part 2 kind of give you an idea of where they met, where they kind of started changing the way that they were thinking through influence of each other. So Lori and Chad Daybell are, they're kind of, like I said, they're influencing each other to be a new person. And at this time, their motive is they both have the same goals. All right, guys, I will see you in part 3. Please share in comments how you feel about this video. What reached out to you most. I love you guys. Stay safe, and I'll see you soon.